Okay, good evening. Today I am going to cover one of the application. In the last class, we have covered the BCH codes, and now I will be covering one application. Uh, Actually, we should have started the next lecture on convolutional codes, but I think since we need to cover some applications and you can do some projects, so I am giving you a brief introduction about this DNA storage. Okay, so this is a very important topic. It started very recently back in the year 2012 and 2013. In fact, we have done our work in 2013. So I will be giving brief overview of what we have done in this area. And I will also talk about what are the possibilities. So why this area is very, very important. So the area is DNA data storage. How I can use our DNA to store the data, all your media file, PDF, doc, everything, your Facebook memories, anything you want to store. How do we store? So title of the talk is how to store elephants. This talk was given by me at many occasions. So I'm just using the same slides for this lecture. Okay, so the motivation is biology and computer science, life and computation are related. I am confident at their interface, great discoveries await those who seek them. This is a famous quote by Edelman, who was one of the pioneers in crypto systems, RSA crypto systems. A stands for Edelman, Ravish Samir and Edelman. And he started the DNA computing, the area of DNA computing recently. So this area that we are going to talk about is one portion of DNA computing only. Okay. So this area, is a much more general area is known as biomolecular computing. So in the biomolecular computing, we have DNA computing, bacterial computing, peptide computing means protein computing, membrane computing, and RNA computing. And peptide computing is mainly theoretical. Not much practical work has been done there. And same thing with membrane computing. There's a lot of work on theoretical stuff from computer science perspective, but very less work is done in terms of experiments. RNA is kind of mix. So, some work is done in theory and some in computational aspects. Uh, and DNA computing, again, there's a lot of work done in theory side and also on practical side. So there's really great discoveries are happening in this area. And the other area is bacterial computing. Then you can do computations with bacteria. In fact, we have done one experiment as well with bacteria, in terms of DNA storage. So I'm going to talk about these things in this slide. So RNA computing, DNA computing, and bacterial computing is all the three areas where we work quite closely. Membrane computing and peptide computing, I am not working much. So what is DNA computing? So in DNA computing, we do computation using DNA strands. So first of all, in normal computer science, if you look at in our classical computer, we have any computational problem and we have computed, and there are circuits which will solve those problems, and the output is also in the form of binary strings of 0 and 1s. Computation is done in the form of binary strings, zeros and ones. In DNA computing, our computational problem is encoded into DNA strings of ACGT: adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. So there is a DNA strings, and they do computation for us in the test tube, and then output is also in the form of DNA strands. So basically, computing is done through DNA strands, and DNA hybridization is the main tool for DNA computing. It's the backbone of the DNA computing is DNA hybridization. So A is complement to T and C is complement to G with respect to the hydrogen bonds. So this is a very key aspects of DNA computing. Now, DNA computing applications, so there are many applications which are available, or many sub branches are available. DNA tiles, DNA nanostructures, DNA cryptography, DNA circuits, DNA strand displacements, and finally DNA data storage. So today I am going to talk more about DNA data storage systems, how we are going to use this DNA data storage. So storage is a fundamental need for both life and computation. and every life needs storage. Storage of resources such as food. Storage is also basic computing primitive. And one can ask this question, what is life? And you know that there is a famous book by Schrödinger written in 1944, What is Life? And now we can understand it much better way. Life is nothing but storage for information processing principles. That means computing. And we know that modern humans stores data. Some examples of natural storage, these are known as honeypot ants. These ants stores honey, as you can see. So these are the natural examples. I don't know whether you have ever seen these things, but these are fascinating things in the nature. And then we have the history of the storage. We used to do cave paintings, tally sticks, papyrus, the early form of paper. Then paper is there, punch card, hard disk, RAM, floppy disk, phonograph. Then we have telegraphone, magnetic tape, Williams tubes, other floppy disks, compact disc, CD-ROM. You have seen in 80s. Then we have MOD, magneto optical disc. Compact flash, I think you might have seen lot applications in camera. DVD, we used to have DVD player earlier, but now it is also outgoing technology. Memory stick also in camera. Then USB flash drive is very common, which I think you are using quite a lot these days. Blu-ray disc, high definition DVD, HD DVD, and then we have finally cloud storage. So these days you store most of your data in cloud. For example, your Gmail, everything is replicated 35 times each packet, and then that is stored in cloud. Okay, so you can access. So basically, this is a very common thing for storage. Now we were talking about elephants. The title of the talk was how to store elephants. What do you mean by elephants here? So if you want to store elephants, elephants mean big data for us. Big data means all these zeros and ones made up of zeros and ones, the big data. How do we store big data? You know that big data right now we are having quite a lot that is happening. So one question that we can ask, how many elephants are we generating now? So there is a nice estimate given by Eric Schmidt, who was the executive chairman of Google. This is 10 years ago. He gave this statement. From the dawn of civilization until 2003, humankind generated 5 exabytes of data. 1 exabyte is equal to 1 billion gigabytes, which is something around 10 raised to the power 18, okay, of data. But now we produce 5 exabytes every 2 days, and the pace is accelerating. You see that this was 17 years ago. We were generating 5 exabytes every 2 days. And right now, so we still every day we are generating data in terms of exabytes. But I should say to you that if I ask you what is the size of the current internet, so internet current size is something around 700 exabytes. 700 into 10 is for 18. Those many bytes are there, right? And basically, we will see that how to store this data is a really challenging thing. And so we know that the cloud of internet or internet of things will produce data in the order of 10 is for 30 G4 So basically, all this every 60 minutes snapshot that we take, Facebook, Netflix, emails, how many emails that we send in 60 seconds. This is a little bit old things. How many WhatsApp messages we send, 20.8 million plus messages every 60 seconds, and so on. Twitters, photographs, posts on Instagram, Spotify, how many hours of music, Amazon purchases in sale, and so on. All these things are generating data every minute, right? So a lot of data is generated, but this is a old estimate, but still it gives us a clear-cut picture that we are going to generate huge amount of data. So as soon as when we have Internet of Things, that means when our refrigerator is talking to vendors, milk vendors, and automatically ordering the milk if the milk is not there in your fridge. So these kind of things are possible because of Internet of Things. Okay, so fridge will order the milk automatically. Okay, so these kind of things are possible. Now, in terms of new vocabulary of data storage, we have megabyte, 10 is for megabyte. Then we have gigabyte, 10 is for 9. Then we have terabyte, 10 is for 12. Petabyte, 10 is for 15. Exabyte, 10 is for 18. Zettabyte, 10 is for 21. Yottabyte, 10 is for 24. and Bronto byte, is 10 is per 27, and gigabyte is 10 is per 30. So this is a new vocabulary that you should be familiar pretty soon, So I think you might have heard about up till terabyte and petabyte, because nowadays you will find many, many hard disks worth terabyte, of information you can store. And petabyte is also something that you may heard. Exabyte is something that is coming up pretty soon, and then all others. So the question is, how big is the elephant? So yes. So question is, how big is the elephant? So basically, we have terabyte you can store in so it will fit around 200,000 photos or MP3 songs on a single 1 terabyte hard drive. Simple hard drive is enough to 4 terabyte information. 10 is for 12. Petabyte will fit into 16 black size storage pods stocked in 2 data centers cabinets. This is also not very difficult. Exabytes will fit in 2000 cabinets and fill 4 storage data center that takes up a city block, say in US. Zettabyte 10 is for 21 will fit 1000 data centers or so, about 20% of Manhattan in New York. And yottabyte, which is in the order of 10 is for 24, will fill the states of Delaware and Rhode Island with millions of data centers. So that means if you want to store yottabyte, you require a lot of space. Space crunch is a very, very big issue. Secondly, the cost is also going to be a difficult choice. The cost of buying 1 terabyte hard drive today is $100, and it would cost. Yeah, this is a estimate back in 2008 actually. So at that point of time, 1 terabyte hard disk was something around $100. So in that case, it would cost something around $100 trillion to buy a yottabyte of storage for just the hard drive, right? So now you can see that in 2008, the US GDP was $14 trillion. European GDP was $18 trillion. World GDP was $61 trillion, and you require $100 trillion to store 1 yottabyte of data. So cost is also a major issue. So storage cost as well as storage space, both are a burning issue that we need to solve. And every day we are taking photographs from on Facebook, we are putting photographs on Facebook, Instagram, and we are generating a lot of data without thinking where to store this. It's a big challenge. So question is, can we have a better solution? What is the ultimate storage device? So answer is yes. DNA is our ultimate storage device, which can store DNA can store 1 gram of DNA can store 455 exabytes of data. So basically 455 into 10 to the power 18. So 1 gram of DNA can store that much data. That means 2 grams of DNA is sufficient to store 700 exabytes. So entire internet you can store in only 2 grams of DNA. Don't you think it's a remarkable thing, right? 2 grams of DNA can store entire internet. This is something really beautiful. Now, what is the blueprint of DNA? Blueprint of life is DNA. So it's just DNA 101 thing. So it's made of 4-letter alphabet, nucleotide basis, adenine, cytosine, guanine, thymine, A, C, G, T, and there are complements. A and T are complements to each other, and C and G are complement to each other. By hydrogen bonds. So hybridization happens via base pairing. So the bottom picture shows a hybridization. You can see that there are 3 hydrogen bonds between C and G, and there are 2 hydrogen bonds between A and T. So when we heat it up, actually these hydrogen bonds will break, and then these double-stranded DNA will separate it into two single-stranded DNA. So DNA reading and writing. So central to DNA manipulation is DNA synthesis and DNA sequencing. DNA synthesis means writing process, and DNA sequencing means reading process. So already there are machines available. In fact, DNA sequencing is available in the form of a nanopore sequencing, which is very, very advanced level. It's a very small machine which can read DNA. You put the DNA and you can read the letters ACGT. And the writing, there are machines which can write the DNA for you. In fact, these things are available in Ahmedabad. You can find a company which can do these things for you for DNA synthesis and DNA sequencing. Okay, so how DNA storage works? So basically, we do first encoding of our data into ACGT. Then we synthesize the DNA into lab. Then we store in the test tubes. So similarly, retrieval is done from a test tube, and you do the sequencing. You read them, and then you again decode using a software. So so data is there, data encoding in terms of DNA string, DNA writing or writing on DNA, DNA synthesis. Reading from DNA is DNA sequencing. And one important thing to observe, again, coding theory has to play a role. Error corrections has to be done. When we retrieve or when we write data or when we read data, errors do happen. So reading errors will be there, writing errors will be there, and sometimes even storage errors are there, So simple model that had been studied is bit flip, like A is converted to T, T is converted to C, and so on. Or insertion deletion error, edit errors are may be possible. So T is deleted, or G is inserted at some point. So those kinds of errors are also possible. So many people are studying these kind of models, and they are trying to construct codes, error correcting codes using coding theory to correct the errors in the DNA data storage. So earlier work was in 1999 by Cake and then many others, but major breakthrough came in 2012. When Church actually stored many files into the DNA, and without error correction, without coding theory, they try to retrieve the data by manual error correction. And then later on in 2013, Goldman actually came up with the idea of a very loose error correction mechanism to correct the errors. And they have also successfully took 4 or 5 files, different kind of files like PDF, image, and so on. They converted into DNA, stored into DNA, and retrieved them successfully. After that, many more work have happened, and now the field has exploded really well. Our work was done in 2013 when we have developed the first software known as DNA Cloud during 2012 and 2013, which implements the scheme of Goldman. And not only we implement the Goldman scheme, but also we modified. We realized that the Goldman scheme has a problem. When we implemented it, we realized that it cannot store more. It cannot convert 50 MB file more than 50 MB file. There was a problem. So we modified the scheme, we modified the algorithm, and now we have our software available on GitHub, also on our lab, that you can download, and you can use the software DNA Cloud to convert any media file, your PDF, images, movie, to a DNA file, which you can synthesize by sending it to that Excel sheet. You can send it to any biotechnology company, and they can actually who can actually read. You can actually synthesize the DNA, and later on you can retrieve it successfully. These are some early literatures, so these red ones are the work that we have done actually, and we are still working on a couple of things. We have, as I told you, we have also done some experiments. So I think you can read some of these papers actually, some of these papers are available on the internet. You can actually download them and read them, and you can find some nice idea about, how coding theory is applied into DNA. Now, earlier model of archival DNA storage. So one thing actually I should tell you that right now the DNA storage field is mostly archival DNA storage. Means you store the data and retrieve it once. So rewritable is a challenge. And there are some early work on this in this direction of rewritable DNA storage, but still archival DNA storage is much more successful. So you have huge amount of data, you convert into the ACGT strings and you store it. So data source will convert into, using journalism encoding into DNA coding. Then using DNA sequences and DNA synthesis, you can synthesize the DNA, and then finally you read the DNA using DNA sequencing machine, and then decode it using error correcting things. So this was done in the early model, and the number of chunks was 115. Number of chunks, length of chunk was 115. Number of chunks were 54,898, and they stored they stored 5.27 MB of file, and this paper appeared in Science. Next generation digital information storage in DNA, in 2012. Next model was Goldman. There they've used Huffman encoding, and their architecture was a little bit different. The chunk length was 117, and number of chunks was 1,53,335. And they have used 4-fold redundancy for error correction. So this is something they have used error correction, but very, very low kind of error correction. This is not very efficient error correction scheme. that they have used for correcting the errors. The chunk architecture has information bits, index bits, and parity bits. At the same time, we published our work on DNA Cloud. We implemented the software. The Shalin Shah was one of the BTech students at DICT who implemented the software, and he recently finished PhD from Duke University in the area of DNA nanotechnology only. And so we have published one paper in 2014, where Shalin presented this paper in this international conference. And this was done in collaboration with my PhD student Dikshita Limbachia, who is also working on DNA storage company in UK right now. So so we developed this first software, DNA Cloud, in 2013. Using our software, you can encode any data into DNA and you can send it to biotech company, and you will get your data in a test tube. So our DNA model, our DNA, we have used DNA Gole subcode. So at data source, we identified 7 families of non-linear ternary codes, which could be useful for correcting errors. So they are all of size 256 because the ASCII values are total number are 256, right? So we have mapped into those things. So there are 7 families of error correcting DNA error correcting codes, and in fact we have used a ternary Gole code, which is we have used a subcode of 11.256.5 ternary Gole code to encode the data into yes. Hello, any question? Okay, so we have used 11.256.5 a subcode of this ternary Gole code to encode the data into DNA, which can correct 2-bit flips in the DNA code. And our DNA data space capacity achieves 115 exabyte. So as compared to basically Goldman model, they were able to store data in petabytes, and in petabytes order, but we were able to successfully encode data into exabytes. So 115 exabytes per gram of DNA. So we are in that order, and we know that 1 gram of DNA can store 455 exabytes of data. So we are very close to optimal. This our is structure also decreases in the length of the DNA, that minimizes the cost of the DNA storage. Okay, and we have variable length chunk architecture. Here is a code words of DNA Gole subcode 11.256 and 5. So it can correct 2 errors. So you can see that this is the Gole subcode that we have used for the ASCII values are given, and the corresponding Gole code words are given. Our chunk architecture was info bits, then a certain number of base pairs for file index, chunk index, and parity check of the header. So the chunk header was also there. Chunk info bit and chunk header was there. This is the architecture of our architecture. I'll show you now an example actually how to do this. So basically, in the Goldman encoding, binary file was converted into base 3 encoding, and then they've used DNA encoding, and then they have done the DNA fragments, DNA indexing information to locate DNA fragments, and 4-fold redundancy added by repeated reverse complement of DNA in each alternate fragment. So they have used the following table to convert ternary string into ACGT. I'll show you how this is done. This is converted into this. What we have done actually, we have used base 3 encoding using non-linear ternary code, and we have used our system, which was a little bit different. DNA encoded index number, file identifier, parity bits, and so on. So let me show you. Yeah. So our chunk length was 99 base pair long, and we have done the encoding in a different manner. Here is an example. So suppose we take DAIICT. ASCII values are 68, 65, 73, 73, 67, 84. Corresponding ternary code words I can use from the table of the Gole code, subcode of the Gole code. We assign the ternary code words, and then we call it S1. S2 is our ternary Gole subcode for separator comma. Then another S4 is used for colon. Text file, because for the text file encoding, so TXT extension we can use. File extension is encoded in S3. File size is the total size of the S1, so that is encoded here. It is 66. and total length turns out to be 150. We pad it with zeros, padding zeros as 6 such that n plus s6 is modulo 99. Everything is multiple of 99. Okay, so this is what we need to do. So our final string turns out to be S7, which is composition of S1, S2, S3, S4, S6, and S5. So all these corresponding ternary code words. Now we will convert it into a ACGT string. So let me see how to. The first letter is here 0. How to convert? 0 previously written, we assume A. And so here the word turns out to be C. So we'll convert into C here, right? Next, we go to the next letter here in the ternary string, which is 2. So 2, the previous written word is C here. So 2 in front of C is A. So we convert it into A here, right? Like this, we continue encoding from ternary string into final DNA string of ACGT. Okay. So this way, our final string is like this, and including separators and everything. So we make DNA chunks of length 99. There are two chunks of length 99, and finally we indexing the chunk. So here the number of bits required for chunk index k is according to this formula. So basically, Gole subcode for chunk 1 is, so chunk index 1 is 0000, chunk index 2 is 0011. Corresponding Gole code, we have CGTA, and chunk 2 is CGAG. So we have these chunk index at the last of these DNA chunks, and so we implemented this scheme, the modified scheme as well, and that was published in this paper in IWSDA on optimal family of code for archival DNA storage. This was done by two of my other BTech students as well, Madhav Kakkar and Vijay Dhameria. And Madhav is in LinkedIn right now, and Vijay is a spiritual leader. Anyway, so all kind of people are there, right? So this was done in 2015, soon after our work in 2013. So here is a comparison of our size, and so these 5 size, we took the same 5 files which were taken by Goldman, and their kilobyte size is there. Their total number of bytes, chunk size was 117 in their work, Goldman result. Number of chunks you can see, number of nucleotides used. In our case, it is very, very small, as you can see that. So our results was an improvement on Goldman work, in terms of storage. So this was early work. I would say that we were third in the world, I guess, at that point of time. And I think our work is mentioned on Wikipedia if you read about the DNA storage. Another one, we continued work further, and we went to E. coli bacteria, and we developed bacterial-based data storage system. So we come up with a software also. So you can store all your data in your stomach, actually, bacterial data storage. So here we developed a software for bacterial data storage, where you can actually encode the data into bacteria. So here is our demonstration. We demonstrated to the Prime Minister of India and Prime Minister of Israel in January 2018, our experiment of bacterial data storage. So data is stored into the DNA, and we have shown these things. Our work was also reported in the Times of India, data in March 2018. So the data storage on DNA from fiction to reality. Now I'm going to show you some recent news headlines, which are very, very important in this area. You will see how field is progressing. So CRISPR-Cas encoding of a digital movie into the genomes of a population of living bacteria was done recently in 2017. So original image and image reconstruct from bacteria. This was done in the live bacteria. This is done in 2017. Also, Microsoft announced $10,000 project prototype, and they have used this prototype to encode hello, in bits, and it took approximately 1 milligram of DNA. Write and read it took 21 hours in 29. So in the year 2019, they have used it took 21 hours to read and write hello word into the DNA, and this is the the picture of the machine. Now there are many startups which are working in this area. Catalog, DNA Script, HelixWorks is the company where Dikshita Limbache is working, my PhD student. And there are other companies which are doing a lot of work, especially Swiss Biosciences is working with Microsoft to do a lot of work in this area. So the feature of data storage, so Biohacker is the first Netflix show to be stored in its DNA. In September 2020, they have stored Netflix movie into the DNA actually. So that is also done. This was in September 2020, right? So basically, we have also developed software. So as you know, so using this QR code, you can convert any of our these text, for example, Indian Talents Times Israeli technology. You can convert it into using your mobile phone. You can see the corresponding DNA in your mobile. You just scan this QR code and you can see the corresponding DNA strand in your mobile when you scan. So I to T2 we encoded. We have also encoded image of Indian Prime Minister and Israeli Prime Minister. If you scan your this QR code, you will see the corresponding DNA strands for the image. You can also see for the audio and also for the video. This is the event that happened in January 2018 at iCreate, and we have correspondingly we have shown these things to the prime ministers. So challenges in DNA data storage system, there are many actually. Still, we are far away from 455 exabytes limit for 1 gram of DNA. Of course, there are many techniques that have been developed recently, and people are doing actually working in the order of exabytes. Storing elephant is still costly. Developing new error correction techniques is very, very important area. So basically, coding theory has to play a very important role. Rewritable DNA storage is a challenge. So we want a rewritable thing to happen. Exploring other living organisms for storage, such as bacteria and plants, or even humans. Can we store data in humans? That's another challenge. So this is how you store elephants. So in the early days, this CD-ROM can hold more information than all of paper that is here below me. You can see that this guy, Bill Gates is showing you this picture. In nowadays, we know that this test tube of DNA can hold more information than that existed on Earth actually. So this is much powerful. And I'm thankful to my collaborators, CCamp, Taslim Arif at CCamp, who has done the experiments for DNA storage. We are also doing experiments with our collaborator David Smith at Fraunhofer Institute, and his oldest PhD student Martin at Fraunhofer Institute. And we have also done work with Vanit Agarwal at Purdue University. And we are thankful to our sponsor, Microsoft Research, the Department of Science and Technology, DAD, and Collegiate Technology for supporting our work. So many team at our place have done work in this area. So Dr. Dikshita Limbache and Dr. Krishna Gopal, they have finished PhD with us. Sauradev is currently working on it with us in this area. There are many lab alumni who have done work with us, and they are doing successfully they are successful in their career. So I think that's all. Thanks. If you have any questions, please ask me.